Michelle, we're going to talk more about this. Saruhan Hatipoglu, CEO of Beri Consulting, joins us. So once again, good to see you. Let's start where we left off. They talked about Turkey. That's one of the hot spots. How concerned do we need to be worried about Turkey?
Well, we need to be concerned a little bit here because the way the central bank approached and raised interest rates was quite strange in that they increased at a time, one sitting, 500 basis points almost.
That's a huge jump.
Huge jump. And a week before they said everything is under control. So the way it happened, if they started increasing rates successively from June when the Gezi Park protests started, that would be okay. But they didn't do that, and they did it in one sitting, and that did not really
Why do you think
well
they chose that time to do that raise?
They did not have a choice, Phil. And I think the Minister of Economy as well talked to the Prime Minister and got his approval because the Prime Minister of Turkey is against interest rate increases. He just said today, I'm always against interest rate increases. I don't know what it means in economic fundamentals because sometimes you just need to do that. But again, the manner in which it happened is very concerning for foreign investors.
So we don't like interest rate hikes because that causes the cost of capital to be more expensive, which ultimately could slow down the economies around the world. Let's talk about the rest of the world. It's not just Turkey having these issues. South Africa, India, we can go on and on. There's 5 countries, and there's probably another half a dozen or so kind of on the fringe that we need to start looking at. Is the same problem all related, or does each country have a slightly different problem?
Well, if you look at Asian financial crisis back in the day, emerging markets are different now. They have deeper capital markets. They've doubled, a lot of countries doubled their foreign exchange reserves. So if something happens, then it will affect all around the world. We saw that a lot of corporations were watching what was happening in Turkey at midnight in Turkey. At 5, 6 o'clock, we got a lot of calls. News was covering it. So yes, they are related, but the reasons why things are happening in Turkey, South Africa, Thailand, Argentina are different. But the way they're happening and they're affecting the markets, yes, even developed countries are seeing problems from that.
Unfortunately, both of us are old enough to be around back in 1997 when the Asian financial crisis began in Southeast Asia. One of the biggest problems was the construction of building of homes and things, of infrastructure that ultimately the government couldn't ultimately afford to pay the bills on. That caused the financial crisis because lenders say, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to either stop lending or you need to pay our money back, and they couldn't. Is there any relation to what's happening right now? I mean, is it fair to even compare the two?
There's some similarity. We're seeing property overhang in a lot of emerging markets. Turkey is one of them. There are a lot of large construction projects, infrastructure projects that are not being completed because of this huge interest rate increase. But the major problem, Phil, is a lot of the emerging markets did not do what they were supposed to do when free money, relatively free money, was flowing in from the US or Europe. Yeah. To there, they did not invest in productive capacity.
Some people are blaming the United States Federal Reserve for this problem because when the Fed brought rates to zero during the last financial crisis that we just went through, rates were at zero, so it was our free money. They took that free money and they invested it overseas, whether it's in China or Thailand or South Africa or Turkey, because they got great returns. Now that the economy in the US and Europe have stabilized a bit, some of that money is coming back. Is that a fair blame to blame the Fed because they made money so cheap?
It's a very easy way to get out of this problem because everybody knew what the Fed was going to do in June. Again, when relatively free money was flowing to emerging countries, a lot of the countries decided to use that money in financial markets to make money out of money. They did not invest in their productive capabilities, and they're suffering from that. India's central bank head today said the same thing, and blaming the U.S. I completely disagree with that. The U.S. has to do what it has to do right now. The economy is growing. They can't continue the monetary stimulus.
Well, in fairness, the U.S. hasn't raised rates. They said that they might later when things are better.
Exactly.
They've begun the tapering process. There's another very large event that's happening in Russia, Sochi, the Winter Olympics. The foreign exchange markets might be making some bigger headlines with respect to Russia. Do we need to worry about the Russian economy?
Well, the Russian economy is actually, we're seeing a lot of involvement from the central bank there as well. It is subject to a lot of the problems that emerging markets are subject to. We are being very cautious on Russia. It has good potential, but in the short term, we're being very cautious on it.
The market's going to be closed for 2 days as we go into this weekend, and a lot of traders and investors, and even normal people are going to be watching the headlines in the markets wondering, do I need to worry? Come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, what are you going to be looking at?
Let's watch the Turkish lira. how it's going to react, because with 475 basis point increase, and if the Turkish lira continues to depreciate, that is going to trickle down. I am personally worried about a possible run on the currency with interest rates so high, with Turkish corporations owing 160 billion in foreign currency. In addition to that, investment declining due to high interest rates. We need to watch Turkey a little bit more, and then we can decide whether we should worry or just rest easy a little bit.
So you're going to have a working weekend.
It will be a working weekend.
Saruhan Hatipoglu, thank you very much.